tape you're about to view is of a lineal package which was cut on site. It is a customized bald eagle. Kuhn's brothers also offer, to a great advantage to the builder and the do-it-yourselfer, a pre-cut package which saves labor and time in construction of home. At the very end of the tape, you will see just a few of the procedures which are used on the layout and how a pre-cut home is designed. The steps for putting both together are similar. Nailing pattern, receptacles, lights, setting of doors and windows, and the trim on the exterior of the homes. Place plastic under logs when stacking on ground. This will prevent splashing. After foundation is completely finished, take measuring tape, measure length, width, across corner to check for square before placing seal plates in place. From one corner to the other corner.
In the corner?
Put pressure treated wall plate on. Build girder beam on top of wall. With 2x4 bracing underneath girder beam. This holds it up above the bolts. Now you're ready to take girder beam, stand it on edge, and actually take and slide it completely across the wall and drop down into pockets. Girder beam has been nailed together, 16 inches on center, 4 nails, with liquid nail between each one to form a laminated beam. After setting girder beam, brace straight to back seal plate. Prepare outside 4x10 hemlock box first before setting floor joists. On all materials, there's a slight crown. Always keep the crowns up, as denoted in corner, small arrow pointing up. This is a starting point for plywood and floor joists by X's. Lay out center girder beam with X's. So floor joist will run in proper direction, 16 inches on center also. Set floor joist 16 inches on center. Toe nail each floor joist into 4x10 perimeter box. All walls get double floor joist underneath for support. Boxing for fireplaces and stairways, get double headers. Bearing support walls may require extra floor joists. As here you see it, 4 2x10s nailed together. After this step is completed, plywood can be started with bridging put in center of sections between. Plywood is started in center of house, so plywood will miss joist running opposite ways. Whatever's left over on the outside is where you finish in remainder of plywood. Holes drilled through floor joists are gangways for your electrical wiring. If this is done before subfloor is put down, it saves a lot of time. Also, you see strapping on every other floor joist, which helps hold perimeter box together because of 2x10s being toe-nailed into perimeter box. This will eliminate any rolling on the exterior, and exterior wall together. Divide distance between girder beam and exterior perimeter box in half. Snap a chalk line. This line will be the point where bridging are placed to help support floor joists from top to the bottom. Only nail top of bridging at this time. Bottom of bridging can be nailed later after deck is completely finished. When putting plywood together, the tongue and groove, use hammer, sledgehammer with a block of wood. This helps prevent busting of edges on tongue and groove plywood. Before placing plywood, apply liquid nail or construction adhesive on top of each floor joist. Stagger all joints on plywood deck so none line up with each other. Masonry opening is left wider for hearth on fireplace. After plywood deck is completely nailed, snap chalk line at 4 inches in from each corner. Layout center of door openings. Also add on 1.5 inches on each side for butts. At this point you can go around, check the swing of the doors, lay out for all switches on the opposite side of the hinge side. Mark all receptacles and switches at this time around the complete perimeter of your deck. Take an inch auger bit and drill it at approximately a 30-degree angle on all receptacle and switch openings down through perimeter box into basement. You can also lay out center of window lines, which will give you reference points if you are having electric heat, so electric heat can be positioned under windows. This is a completed hole drilled for a receptacle, which goes through the perimeter 4x10 box into basement. With log turned upside down, mark it 4.5 inches. Take small circular saw, set up to the depth of the cut, which is in the bottom of the groove. After taking circular saw and cutting the whole length of the log, flip log over on face side down, or the rounded side down. Take 16-inch circular saw, set it to the depth of what your cut line was with a small saw, which represents 4.5 inches deep. Run this the continuous length of the log also. What this does is forms a flat surface of 4.5 inches to sit on. This will give you a 1/2 inch overlap out over your box frame on the foundation. Inside of the log will be set then to the snap line, which is snapped at 4 inches around complete perimeter of box. Here again is another shot of the measurement, 4.5 inches. The bottom groove has been removed, just leaving a small drip edge on the outside edge of the log. Female corners are the only ones which you will not cut completely to the outside edge of the log. Here on the bottom edge you will mark them out to 4.5 inches on the bottom cut, is represented here laying before us. This is a female corner with the outside edge sticking out over. Do not destroy or cut the bottom edge of the log. Stop at 4.5 inches from the inside edge of the female cut out. This will have to be hand chiseled out by hand because the saw will not cut a square corner. Now you're positioned ready to drill holes for receptacles. Place tape on chalk line at 4 inches. Measure to the center of first receptacle hole, which we see represented here is at 24 inches. Now take this measurement, transfer it up from the female inside corner to mark your center out for the receptacle hole on the bottom of the log. Turned upside down, from the inside corner, mark 24 inches to dead center. This is where your 1-inch hole will be drilled, from bottom to the top, continuous to receptacle and wall. When making inside corners, which are created by using a 6x6, standing vertical, 2 router marks cuts have to be cut in them by using an inch cutter bit by 1/2 inch cutter. use of proper tools, which we have here, is a 3-horsepower router with a guide on to give us good straight cuts as you're running parallel the length of the 6x6s. Try not to take the full cut at one time, which is 7/8 of an inch deep. Make it in 2 successive cuts of approximately 3/8 of an inch each time. The same tool, the router, is used for cutting butt joints where 2 logs come together with the same guide setup, same depth, when an inside corner is put together. This is the way the router mark is made or cut on the end of each butt joint. Go through one time, come back through again, which will clean the XX shavings out of the groove. Leaving a finished cut mark with a spline where these 2 will be butt together for sealing out air and water. Before placing first log, put a bead of 3/8 inch caulking on subfloor. Then take female corner, set to corner of chalk line, and tack fast with 12-inch pole barns, poles, nails, galvanized, 3 foot on center. These should be pre-drilled before being nailed in place. Start at one end of log, nail in place, go to center, tack that in place, then to the opposite end, nail that down. Then proceed to sink other nails down approximately 1/4 of an inch below tongue. Do not destroy top of tongue when nailing nails down. Countersink with ball peen hammer or drift pin to prevent this. Before putting female and male corner together, the corner gasket or pad must be placed in corner, which is a 3.5 by 7.5 inch pad. Place in female pocket, then place male log into it. First nail log going in on the male log will be at a slight angle to help draw corner tight together. When laying out receptacles on logs, lay logs on sawhorses and lay out for boxes which you're going to use, either plastic or metal. Scribe pencil line, then taking a circular saw, scribe on these points with circular saw before drilling out. Now take a 2-inch self-feed, self-clean auger bit and take the meat out of the middle to the depth desired for box to fit into. After this is completed to depth, take chisel and clean out all 4 corners. After that step is done, turn log upside down, establish hole on the bottom, and drill through with other auger bits to bring wire up into the bottom of your box. The completed hole for receptacle is in 3rd row. In center of log. Switches and receptacles are in the center of the 7th row for doorways and a kitchen. A helpful hint after establishing first row of logs for blueprint is to take 2 2x4s and nail together to form a square corner. Brace these down plumb at each corner. By doing this, you're establishing a point that that wall will stay plumb on the inside corner all the way up through construction. By starting with female corner each time, at the outside edge of the two 2x4s put together, you will have a very tight inside plumb corner. Inside corners, or 6x6s, are splined the complete length from top to bottom with 1/2-inch plywood, which has caulking applied, or PRC, applied to each side. These are also plumbed and braced to subfloor. As each row of logs come in against spline, they are pole barn nailed with 80 pole barns, each log into 6x6 corner posts. This is very important because once braces are removed, this will hold the inside corner in place. All doorways and windows should be braced after setting first row of logs. Take rough openings and establish heights and widths for frame openings. Brace these down to subfloor also. By establishing this plumb from the very beginning, you will have a very plumb wall as you're building up through. This can be nailed with 16-penny nails every row from jamb into each row of logs. Log corner extensions can be made by taking 2-foot pieces and ripping down as shown. You want to come in 9.5 inches from the end and make a cut. By using the big 16-inch saw, you roll the log over on its face. Make this cut 4 inches deep, which will leave you a piece of 1.5 inches left on, which is the total thickness of log siding. Now with logs set down flat on solid surface, mark 4 inches from the inside edge out. Run circular saw total length on top and bottom. This will relieve the piece that has to be taken out to form your 2-foot log corner extension. This is what a finished corner extension would look like. Inch and a half left on the finished face to match in with 1.5 inches log siding. At all doorways and windows, we make a kerf cut. A kerf cut is a cut which has to be made back into the surface of the log. From the inside edge of the log, which is the living surface, to the exterior, we make a cut at 4.5 inches. That is the small kerf cut you see made by the circular saw. The other cut there, kerf cut or router cut, is an option which you can do at each window and doorway. This allows for putting plywood in to give you a plywood spline for extra sealing powers to keep out water and rain. And when you make this extra plywood cut, you have to take on your door jambs and window jambs and kerf in for a piece of plywood to run the continuous length from top to bottom. So showing a shot with a 2x kerf cut on the exterior, and a piece of plywood which has been routed in for the extra option. The side view shot of the same. Nails are drilled 3 foot on center. Always when coming to a butt joint where 2 logs come together or where a male intersects into a female, put first 12-inch galvanized spike at a slight angle. This will help pull logs tighter and joints tight together. Keep foam rubber on center of tongue. Continuous around corner, no breaks in foam rubber. Caulking will run on the very outside edge of the tongue. A bead approximately 3/16 to 3/8 of an inch thick. When you come to a receptacle hole, go on the outside of the hole. Try to keep all receptacle holes on the inside edge of the tongue. This will prevent water and air from going down through receptacle holes. When you come to where two butts are together, tack 2 16 pennies in adjacent log to hold plumb with each other or flush. After this is done and log has been nailed completely in place with 12-inch nails, 3 foot on center, fill butt joint or router hole with caulking completely. Place tube down in hole as far as can be reached and then pump until it comes out to the top. Now take spline, which is 1.5 by 7 1/4 inches high, and push down into caulking. This will give you a tight weather seal to keep water and rain from coming out between the butt joints. This is very important to have your caulk in these joints. 12th row must run continuous across top of windows. In some cases it's necessary to cut out above window jambs. Always leave a 1/16 of an inch for each log for height, from the bottom to the top, which would allow for any moisture which has been gained in logs as they have been stacked on job site. After 12th row, 13th row is put in place. This row is the one which will receive notches for ceiling joists and floor joists. These are a 3.5 inch notch, got 32 inch on center. Starting points are noted on blueprints for these layouts. All butt joints must be at least 2 foot apart or further for good strengthening of wall. Do not run joints straight over top of each other. To cut notches for ceiling joists, take circular saw set to the depth of the tongue, which is approximately 1 3/4, and make several curve cuts at these points. After these cuts are made, 32 inches on center, take a hammer and chisel and remove pieces which have been curved out. Logs that are delivered in random length, which means they are not cut to size, can be started in this manner. You can work completely from one doorway to a corner to another corner, complete up to the 13th row or to the square before moving on to the next section. Always use proper scaffolding and scaffold planks when working under these conditions. After walls are in place, one helpful hint before putting ceiling joists in would be to go to pile and stain colors before putting into place. By staining on the outside, if there's any splashing or spills, this will be done on the ground instead of splashing onto the walls. After staining, stack and space on strips, covered with plastic until ready to use. This will keep beams, floor joists, rafters, etc. clean. Also a note, it is also a lot faster to stain on the ground than it is above your head, or coming in against another piece of pressure treated, not pressure treated, but into the white pine which has been kiln dried. This acts as a sponge and will soak in materials of stain or paint readily, even if they are masked off. Entrance service can be placed on house at appropriate height once wall is in place for your electrical. One note on all ceiling joists and on tops of purlins, only 3 sides will need to be done. The bottom of the crown side and the 2 exposed sides. The top will be covered with tongue and groove, ceiling paneling, or flooring. This helps on staining. When putting in place, you automatically know which is the top side and the crown side on the material. The one member laying on this stain pile shows the crown side, which does not have to be stained. After staining, these members can be moved to the inside of the house and cut to fit into the proper places where they belong. All notching is done on the floor before setting into place. Rafters are cut, purlins are cut, all skylight notches are also cut into place. This is done by mortising, which we will see later on. Finish walls completely to square or to the 13th row. Etc. Mark these out completely on the floor. Then snap lines from point to point. Doorway rough openings should be marked out on the floor also. This is a rough opening required to sit the door units open. These interior partition walls will be the bearing points for ceiling joists. Doorways are marked by schedule with lettering off of blueprints. This will give you the exact rough opening which you will need to install doors. H is a doorway. Calls for a 2/8 door, rough opening, 2 foot 10.5 by 6 foot 10. After walls are to square, this is the time when you will be laying out for patterns, jigs, to do gable ends. This particular home has a 7/12 pitch on it, which means for every foot running straight across the bottom, it will be rising 7 inches for every foot. This jig pattern also has marks on there for the purlins which go through the exterior wall, marked exactly on the pattern. This pattern will also be used to take the exact measurements to do the interior exposed rafters. This is giving you an exterior shot of the gable end being laid up to the pattern or the jig which is inside. The distance of these pockets, or for the purlin pockets which are marked out on the gable end wall, is 6 inches below the top with a 5-inch wide cut. This allows for the interlocking system of the purlin when it sticks out through the roof to hold the overhang in place. Octagon windows also require a frame network around these also to nail the windows into place. These should be squared across corners as shown. Temporarily brace template into place to exterior wall or solid point. Many situations call for the log or 13th corner to stick out past. This will be a part which will help hold the overhang up in place. Braced gable wall when completely done, depending also again on the height that may require more bracing than others. This will hold in place until purlins and roof sections are put together. Log corner extensions are created by taking 2-foot pieces and notching out as shown. This piece has been cut from the solid end back 9.5 inches. leaving a piece extending around the corner, 1.5 inches thick on the existing piece. This will blend in and match well with the 1.5 inch log siding skirting which goes around to cover the perimeter box. This is showing the log siding butting into the log extension corners. This is caulked along the top edge, which will help prevent water from going back through. Because of the 1/2 inch cut which has already been established on the first row of logs, your first step of building the setting log in place, this forms a gap or a space for the first piece of log siding to tuck up and underneath to give you a good water table and a complete flat surface for the exterior of the logs continuously running from top to the bottom. Purlins which go through the outside wall must be notched on 3 sides. This will give you an interlocking fit. Take measurements off a blueprint for notching. If staining of exterior is not desired, the same as the inside, do not stain these before putting in place. Notches are made by taking a circular saw and curving out to the correct depth. Skylight pieces are also mortised out so they interlock each other. These are sections which are side runners for the skylight. These are mortised out also to receive the interlap sections. Showing another notch on the purlin. Bottom is cut out deeper than sides. Sides are usually 7/16 of an inch deep. This will allow for the foam to fit around snug, fitting into a 5-inch hole. This is approximately 4 3/4 wide. Till the foam is on, it gives you a nice snug fit. Hole in log wall is a 6x5 hole. This is showing 4x8 ceiling joists which have been placed into pockets in outside wall. These are banded across with metal bands at joints. Sitting on top, bearing partition walls where these are spliced together. After this is done, you can start your 3/4 inch tongue and groove 1-inch sheeting boards. This is showing a section where tongue and groove has already been installed. Now it's ready to receive visqueen or plastic to protect it from the water before setting truss rafters or custom-made rafters in place. Temporarily brace all rafters before installing purlins on the top of. Notches cut on top of rafter are usually 1/4 of an inch deep by 5.5 inches wide. This will allow for the marking or setting actually of the purlin in place without having to measure when setting purlins in place. These measurements are taken off of the pattern which we had setting up against the exterior wall. These continue down through the whole complete length, 4 foot on centers, 1/4 of an inch deep on each one. After purlins have been notched out and set around in proper places in home, now's the time to take them and place them on the roof in sections which have been measured out in proper lengths according to the print. This is a view, top view of a skylight opening which has been mortised and interlocked together. With a rough opening, the inside dimensions called out on the blueprint. You will notice off the side of each one of these uprights of the skylight, which runs from purlin to purlin, approximately 8 foot center. Off the center of that skylight is also a purlin, which has been notched in and nailed together. Top of a rafter is where purlins meet together and intersect. Bridge purlin also has been put in place and nailed down to rafters and bearing point walls. One very important thing to remember when coming up the end walls, before setting purlins down into your mortise pockets, is to wrap your foam rubber completely around the notch cut at least 3 times successively all the way around. This allows for the rubber to expand and fill any voids to keep air from moving through the house from the outside to the inside or from the inside to the out. Now we're ready to set our 2x8 face board, which will be setting above the tips of the purlins, which stick out over 6¼ inches above this point, which adds up to the amount of 3/4 of an inch of tongue and groove, 4 inches of Thermex, and 1.5 inch 2x4 spacer for the airspace, and then the plywood on top of that.